Previously on the Rubin Report.
No one is illegal on stolen land.
And I long to see you.
It is an expression of white supremacy.
Damn, I was trying to get this fork in my hair. They are abusing those kids.
Do something.
I don't know what to say. Hello, trusty viewer. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It is February 3rd, 2026. We are live streaming on Rumble, on YouTube, and on Locals. I know you've shared. I know you've subscribed. I know you've tapped that notification bell, so disregard that whole sentence. We have a jam-packed show for you because just this Minnesota situation, the fraud, and now the defense of illegals, the general mayhem, all of it, it's not going away. It is going to morph and move and change and transform and all sorts of other stuff as we roll into the midterms. But this is the thing. I'm telling you, you can quote me on that. This is the thing. And you go, well, what is the thing? The thing is what the Democrats are always looking for. They're always looking for a way to destroy Donald Trump. And in this case, if you do destroy Donald Trump, you're basically going to destroy the United States. We have one party that pretty much thinks America is decent, and you might agree with them on some stuff and disagree with them on some other stuff. And then we have another party that has decided the Constitution is utterly irrelevant. They don't mind absolute mayhem on our streets. They never care when our own legal citizens get killed, raped, murdered, beheaded. And I don't see how you negotiate between those two things. That seems like a bit of a problem to me. So I would like to start today's program with a quote. I thought that would be a thoughtful way of beginning the show today. It's a version of something that I've said many times on the show, but from Bert Prelutsky, it is, if liberals didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all. And Bert Prelutsky was a Hollywood screenwriter. Eventually he turned conservative columnist and he was a commentator. He was known for his sharp wit and unapologetically right-leaning cultural critiques. He was an author of a book called Liberals Are from San Francisco, Conservatives Are from Mars. But you've heard me say some version of that before. And whether it's liberal or leftist, that really will set up today's show, that almost everything we're going to show you, particularly on the first half of today's show, is an obvious point at their hypocrisy, an obvious point at how they seem to have no standards unless it's the complete reverse of what they used to have when the tables were turned. And we need to just expose that and move on with our day. So that's what we're going to do today. And we are going to start with, yeah, you guessed it, the ladies of The View, because Whoopi Goldberg is very concerned that now that Don Lemon had a grand jury in Minnesota, smack them around a little bit, she thinks they're coming for you.
Well, listen, this is what I said to you before. You see what's happening. You know what's happening. If it's happening like this for someone who is out and clearly doing his job, what do you think will happen to us?
Right.
So it's important to recognize what we are voting for now. It's not a conversation. It's not a thing. Now it's like, okay, we all got to stick together with all of this because it's affecting all of us from A to Z.
It's affecting all of us? They're coming for all of us? How many guys, by a show of hands quickly in this room, how many of you have burst into a church during Sunday services and interrupted the services, scared children, threatened people as they were trying to walk out, got in their face with the microphone, maybe harassed the pastor a little bit in the middle of the service? Quick show, anyone? Quick, nothing. He's sitting on his hands. Not Connor, not even once. Come on, nothing. Right, so Whoopi, you're a liar and a buffoon and a ridiculous human being. Also, she claims that it's Don Lemon's job to do this sort of thing. Well, again, Don Lemon is not a journalist. Don Lemon for years was paid, I don't know, $5, $6, $7 million a year to sit at a desk, much like this, although I'm sure his desk was much more expensive than our fancy IKEA light desk that we've got over here. And he would just read things that they told him to read. That was the job of an anchor. Now he's pretending to be a journalist, so he's out there. He doesn't have a real day job anymore, so he's out there with his phone and his little microphone. But it is not the job of a journalist to take part in the illegal activity. And when you burst into a church and you step on other people's free speech and right to assembly, you are violating their constitutional rights. That's exactly what Don Lemon did. Here is legal wizard Anna Navarro going a bit further.
They did it. They released the news at the exact same time that they released the Epstein document.
Epstein files.
So make no mistake about it. This was about gaslighting. This was about going against Don Lemon and other journalists, by the way, all who happen to be Black. Happy Black History Month. And I think it's, to send a chilling message to anybody who is covering facts. For some reason, well, I know the reason. This administration is afraid of people seeing the truth and being informed. And I think they picked on the wrong guy.
Again, if it wasn't for double standards, as the quote said, they would have no standards. So let's just try another version of this. There are many mosques in the United States where there are radical Islamic preachers who are saying terrible things about the United States, about Jews, Christians, et cetera, et cetera. We know this. This is well known. We've shown you some of these videos. They exist even here in Florida. That is a well-known thing. Now, what you are telling me is that if a bunch of red hat wearing white people just burst in during their services and put a microphone in their face and scared the children and was harassing them as they were walking out and everything else, you'd be defending them? Completely absurd. By the way, when the imams are doing it and they're saying we're going to destroy the United States and we're going to take over this country and we're going to make it part of the Islamic Caliphate and everything else, there's actually a question as to whether that's protected free speech or a terrorist threat. That's a sidebar altogether. The point is, you guys have made it very clear, if you attack Christians in their place of worship, that is fair game. And we know you wouldn't do it the other way. We just know it. We know it, we know it, we know it. But again, if it wasn't for double standards, you people would have no standards at all. So you would think that Anna Navarro, in a case like this, would be like, well, it was a Minnesota grand jury, and I'm sure these people did their due diligence, and we do have things like the SAFE Act, and you're not allowed to use your First Amendment rights to trample on someone else's First Amendment rights. She might say, let the legal process go through, because interestingly, in 2023, when there was a grand jury indictment of a certain orange man, she was all about it.
I want to thank this special grand jury because they have been meeting for weeks and weeks. They've done this incredibly seriously. These are not people with a political agenda. These are regular New Yorkers. Donald Trump finally won a popular vote yesterday. The grand jury voted to indict him.
Oh, so when a grand jury does what you want, then the grand jury is good, right? But when a grand jury doesn't, it's proof that, I don't know, we're systemically racist, everything is politicized, et cetera, et cetera. It's complete and utter nonsense. But of course, it's not just her. It's the entire machine. It's the media machine and the politicians here. We can do a little of both. This is back in 2023 when a grand jury did go after Donald Trump. Nobody can even remember why they were going after Donald Trump anymore. And here is communist, but worth about $25 million, Elizabeth Warren, telling Oprah's best friend Gayle King that, of course, the investigation into Trump was independent and not biased.
Why are there no Republicans, not one, saying that no one is above the law, that this is all about politics? It's hard not to see it. It's hard not to see a political lens on this, is it not?
I can't answer for the Republicans. I can only answer for myself. And for myself, it's about backing off and letting the system work. Trust in the process. There is no reason to believe there's been anything other than an independent investigation. It's walked through all the steps. It is a grand jury, according to the evidence released, that has voted independently. And we will go forward with that process.
Well, Liz, if it wasn't for double standards, you would have no standards at all. You have no reason to believe that it wasn't an independent grand jury. So if that's the general premise that you guys want to take when it's going in your direction, then why isn't that the way that you're taking it right now? Donald Trump didn't call somebody and say, get that Don Lemon. It was a grand jury in Minnesota. I thought this was rather interesting because, back in 2023, the whole idea was Joe Biden had nothing to do with this, right? The entire Department of Justice was going to Donald Trump's house, going through old documents, like the entire machine was going after Trump as he was getting ready to run for president again. And the question is, well, where did that come from? Well, yesterday, former DOJ chief of staff under Trump, Chad Madel, laid out that, it probably did have to do with that old auto pen person.
If there is no accountability, we are going to repeat the mistakes of the past.
I assume you were alluding to the search and seizure of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago when you were talking about a Justice Department going after a president's rival. There is no evidence thus far that President Biden directed Attorney General Merrick Garland to do that.
First off, I would just say as a matter of common sense, do we really think the Department of Justice raided the home of the former president and candidate to be the next president of the United States and nobody in Joe Biden's White House knew about that? So just as a common sense gut check, that doesn't pass the smell test.
There's a difference between...
That's a good point. I'd like to get him on the show. I like the way he laid that out. Everyone wants to get in the weeds with everything, but he just bring it back to common sense. So when they were going after Donald Trump, his private home, when he was running for president, while he was on trial and his businesses were being taken out in New York, and just before he got shot at, and while some of the blue states were trying to get him removed from the ballot and everything else. Do you think it's possible that Merrick Garland just was like, you know what, I see all this stuff and we're going to go get that guy at his house, but nobody tell Joe Biden or anyone at the White House? It's completely absurd. But the Democrats have a new martyr. He hasn't strapped on a suicide vest just yet, but that's coming soon enough. Don Lemon is now making the rounds. And if you are a Democrat martyr, where do you go? You go on quote unquote comedian Jimmy Kimmel's show and basically say that the indictment was a complete lie.
And then they find a grand jury.
Right.
And are you familiar with how that happens? Like, how do they find this group of people who are willing to bring charges against you?
I don't know. I'm not that, astute with it, but at least I don't know the process that well because I'm not an attorney. But, I assume that they figure out who the folks are and they send it to them. And then they write up the indictment as to what they are, what they want charged. And then they give it to them. But you can write whatever you want to an indictment. As I've been doing some research, you can say whatever you want.
Oh, so grand jury indictments are just made up. Interesting, because you all took the complete reverse position when you were trying to stop Donald Trump from being on the ballot and becoming president again, but he is president again. Now, interesting, let's talk about what he was actually charged with for a moment, and I will read it to you. He was charged with violation of the FACE Act, and I will read it word for word. The FACE Act is a federal law that prohibits using force, threats of force, or physical obstruction to intentionally injure, intimidate, or interfere with people seeking or providing reproductive health services or exercising religious freedom at a place of worship. Now, I think we have, we're going to get it in just a second. Okay, we're going to grab it in just a second, one of the images. We don't have to show you all the video of that day. But once again, Don Lemon went in with the protesters. Do you think he was intimidating? Do you think as they were up there yelling and screaming at these people, look at that kid, look at that father, I assume that's the mother, or maybe it's the sister. That's intimidation right there. They were there, their political views are irrelevant, utterly irrelevant. Places of worship are protected spaces according to the SAFE Act. If we shred that notion, then there will be no places of worship, which perhaps is actually what the left wants, right? It might be. But if we shred that and anyone can interrupt anyone anywhere for any reason, we are done. We are done. We cannot tolerate it because, by the way, it'll always be the lefties doing it to the people on the right. It won't be the people on the right that are constantly interrupting and trying to disturb the peaceful assembly and worship of people on the left. I don't know what people on the left worship anyway. But clearly, there was intimidation. Don Lemon went in with them. He decided in the midst of interrupting their Sunday worship to get in the face of the pastor and force him to do an interview in the middle while he's literally asking them to leave. So as I said yesterday, and it's a point Bill Maher made on Real Time the other day, there is an optics issue here that is separate from the legal issue. The legal issue seems pretty clear cut that Don Lemon was involved in this and some of these people definitely broke the FACE Act. That seems pretty clear. Now, is there an optics issue that Don Lemon will now get standing ovations at the pre-Grammy show like we showed you last night, or now he'll be on Kimmel, or now he will be their martyr? Thus, we've butterfly amplified all of this, right? Like, is there some version of that could be a problem? Yeah. I would say that is an optics issue that is separate from the legal issue. We will have more on the absurdity of these people and the fact that if it was not for double standards, they would have no standards at all in just a moment. But first, Rumble Wallet. They can freeze accounts, shut off cards, lock people out of their own money overnight. Banks don't protect freedom, they control access. Real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a non-custodial wallet for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, digital assets like Bitcoin and Tether can be owned outright, and even Tether Gold, real physical gold on the blockchain. Tether Gold means direct ownership of fully allocated gold bars, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. This isn't paper gold, this isn't an IOU, this is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. Buy it, sell it, move it 24/7, even when traditional markets are closed. And yes, it can be redeemed for physical gold. That's real power. Rumble Wallet also lets supporters tip creators directly, peer-to-peer, outside the banking system. No permissions, no middleman, no cancel button. This wallet is yours forever. Visit wallet.rumble.com. You know, as long as we're doing quotes today, why don't I start this next segment with another quote that will connect all of this, which is from Andrew Breitbart, who of course famously created Breitbart.com, which is that politics is downstream from culture, meaning that everything that happens politically is a reflection of the culture in the society. And the culture is made up of the music, and it's made up of the comedy, and it's made up of the movies, and all of the way we talk and communicate and all of those things. If you can't affect the culture, you sort of can't succeed politically. And I think most people really understand that now. He said it something like 20 years ago, way ahead of his time. So it's interesting because, you know, when we show you clips of like the Grammys the other night, I don't care about any of these people. Genuinely don't care. I don't listen to any of their music. Bad Bunny and I just don't care about any of them. However, I do acknowledge that they have some cultural power. So, of course, everybody, I mean, it was just absolutely insane. Nobody said a word about the 40,000 people killed in Iran. But, of course, they all had something to say about Donald Trump trying to make sure that illegals and criminal rapists and murderers were not taken out of the country. So last night on Fox, my good friend Sage Steele pointed a bit about their double standards and hypocrisy.
And to base it in fact. They base it on TikTok news or left-wing media narratives instead of the facts. If you go on fact and give me your opinion from there, then fine. And that's exactly what the Hollywood elites are choosing not to do as well. And it was an incredibly pathetic but not surprising display by all of those on the stage yesterday. Where were those pins for Lake and Riley or Jocelyn Ungary or any of the thousands of Americans who have been killed or hurt by illegal immigrants? We're all fine with immigration, legal immigration. We're all here because of legal immigration. It's the illegal part and the fact that they choose to ignore those facts, but then spew silly opinions like Billie Eilish, which was comical what she said. This is why, shut up and dribble, shut up and sing, because you're super talented, but you don't know what you're talking about.
And I do adore my good friend Sage Steele. Yeah, everything she said there is right. And, you know, it's so interesting because imagine if, just to show you the groupthink that these people have, virtually everyone there, they wore the pin, ice out, very brave of you, Justin Bieber. And then Billie Eilish gets up there, nobody's illegal on stolen land, which is such a fundamentally flawed, that means nothing exists, period. I mean, it's just like a series of retarded drivel, right? But imagine if one music. Who's like a decent musician that maybe they were there or not? Give me just like a decent musician who's Zach Bryan. I have no idea who that is, but I'm told he's a decent musician. Was he there? Probably not, right? Or Jelly Roll. That's one name, Jelly Roll. Okay. So imagine if Jelly Roll, show me a picture of Jelly Roll. Is that a man or a woman or a band? I don't even know. It doesn't matter. But imagine if Jelly Roll had gotten up there and just said, thank you. I'm very happy to have won this award, and I enjoy singing my songs as Jelly Roll. Here's a picture of Laken Riley. She was murdered by an illegal. But nobody can do that. Nobody can do that because they are in complete lockstep with each other. Now, the beautiful part of politics being downstream from culture is that as the internet age has risen, we've taken much of the culture back. So I thought this was quite funny. Do we have a picture of the Jelly Roll? Is that I honestly have no idea. Is it a man? I assume it's a fat black person. That's what Jelly Roll seems to be to me. All right, we're working on Jelly Roll. In the meantime, I thought this was quite good. Australian, what do we call him? Internet personality, Drew Pavlo. I guess he's a bit of a journalist. He has officially announced that he's moving into Billie Eilish's Malibu mansion because she said no person is illegal on stolen land. Obviously, Americans stole Malibu from the Choctaw or whatever it is. So he's moving in.
Big news, everybody. I've decided today to move into Billie Eilish's $6 million Malibu beachside mansion. She announced today at the Grammys that no human being is illegal on stolen land.
No one is illegal on stolen land.
So I'm going to be making the trip to America. I'm packing my bags right away, and I'm looking forward to just taking possession of her $6 million Malibu mansion. No human being is illegal. So I want to thank everybody who's believed in me on this journey. I really can't wait to move in. It's now my house. I want to thank Billie Eilish as well for her generosity. Thank you so much.
First off, there's a couple of things here. One is that house is only $6 million in Malibu. Obviously, $6 million is a ton of money, but it tells you what's going on in Cali right now. The amount of people are leaving. That house on the beach like that in Miami, I kid you not, would be $20 or $25 million. But post-fire, post-high taxes, billionaires leaving, even Malibu, which is one of the most beautiful coasts in the world. That was where we used to go to the beach. We lived in LA. Even that's gone. Do we have a picture of the Jelly Roll? We have Jelly Roll's just like a middle-aged white guy with obviously some problems with his parents. Okay, that's fine. Interestingly, this from Colin Rugg, a new GoFundMe has been launched, so a foreigner can attempt to move into Billie Eilish's home after she said the United States was stolen land. The man who we're talking about, Drew Pavlo from Australia, says he plans to move into her home. I was inspired by Billie Eilish's recent statement at the Grammys that no human being is illegal, and I now intend to fly to America to move into her beachside house in Malibu. And of course, at the Grammys, Eilish slammed ice and claimed no one is illegal on stolen land. I'll throw $50 in on that thing. Like, let's move this guy to Malibu. And you know, like, lady, why do you even have a lock on your door? Why do you even have, there are plenty of homeless people wandering around the PCH over there. That's where the house is. Let them in, lady. Let them in. I thought this was quite interesting. Former Minnesota gubernatorial candidate Chris Madel was on CNN. And I say former because he did not win, because he's not a complete leftist psychopath. And that's what they've been left with over there. And they got into it a bit over Billie Eilish's remarks. And note their uppity defense of Billie Eilish.
And particularly January seems to have crossed a line. Do you feel like that's what's happened?
I do. I also get a little tired of Hollywood jackasses coming out and telling us what to think. And
that's a bit.
Billie Eilish telling me that, you know, that it's stolen land. I'd love to see her turn her keys back to her multi-million-dollar mansion to whomever is going to come over.
But if you don't like it, don't listen. Don't listen.
We're sitting here listening to all this and these sorts of people. Nobody cares what Hollywood
sorts of people
thinks.
are?
Nobody cares what they think.
You know,
and I think she's 100% right.
That is not true. Right. Many people do care what celebrity.
They care at your parties. They care at your parties. They don't care anyplace else.
I'm talking. That woman is literally she's that SNL skit, Coffee Talk. Give me an image or something from Coffee Talk SNL. And so she's like a caricature of a woman from Long Island. I'm talking. They're so unpleasant. I'm talking like you have a Jedi force to stop him from speaking. But of course, and she's like, well, why are you criticizing her? We're on a panel where we talk about these things. You people are profoundly absurd. You're right. We don't have to listen. I did not watch. I see the clips. Yes, we're talking about it now because politics is downstream from culture. And to whatever extent these people still have cultural power to break the brains, usually of young people, and we'll have more on that in a little bit, we have to push back on it. So I do hope that this Drew moves into Billie's home, and I hope that Billie turns over the keys, and I hope that Bad Bunny and Retarded Rabbit, and I hope all the rest of them, put their armed guards away, open up their doors, and welcome them in. Bernie Sanders, you've got 3 houses. There's gotta be one guest room. There's gotta be one guest room where you can house one of these murderous rapists. Show it, don't say it, brother. This clip I absolutely love because we showed you a clip last week of Steve Kerr, Golden State Warriors coach. He won, I think, 5 championships as a player with Michael Jordan and the Bulls, and then he's won 4 as a coach. So this guy should be, as someone that loves basketball, I should absolutely love this guy. And I did enjoy watching him play way back when. The guy was a hell of a three-point shooter. But he has become everything that's wrong with the NBA. Instead of focusing on basketball, he constantly tells us how racist we are. Ironically, as a white guy, he never steps down to give a black guy his position as coach. I don't know why. Guess he enjoys the cash. But last week, he went up there and he lied repeatedly about ICE on several fronts, including that they went for the 5-year-old kid and separated from his father and all of that. Well, then the truth eventually hits you, and he had to admit that he didn't say he lied. He just says he misspoke.
Andre from Outkick.com. So going back to the situation in Minneapolis and some of the comments that were made there. So I know you had mentioned that, ICE isn't rooting out violent criminals, but is instead taking 5-year-olds. Since we know that ICE has indeed arrested violent criminals, and perhaps some of those statements could be seen as misinformed or possibly divisive, what would you say to that?
You're right. I definitely misspoke, and I knew that ICE was arresting some criminals, and I think I immediately regretted it because I knew that to be the case. But my point is that they're also arresting people and detaining citizens and people who should not be being detained.
You immediately regretted it and you knew you misspoke, then why didn't you say that? You said what you said. Then you got called out on your BS, and now you're having a fake mea culpa. That's exactly what you're doing. And by the way, as we pointed out repeatedly, over 700,000 illegals have been kicked out by Donald Trump. Don't trust me, check the numbers yourself. About 240 people, Americans who are legal Americans, have been temporarily arrested, usually for less than an hour, because they either didn't have ID or they were involved in a situation where there were illegals there and there was some confusion. And you might say, well, that's 700,000 out, over 700,000 out, 240. It's still too many. You might make that argument, but there's no perfect system. There's going to be some broken eggs when you make an omelet. I'm just busting out all the old quotes today. Like, that's just the truth. But Steve Kerr, you are the very reason that people like me no longer tune into the NBA, and I would say good luck with that. But again, Steve, you've been in the game a while. 9 championships, 5 as a player, 4 as a coach. Just resign. Let a black guy. Can a black guy coach? Can a black guy hold a little board with a Sharpie and draw a play? I think black people can do that. So get on board, man. Just do it. As they say in basketball, just do it. Let's talk about Cove Pure for a minute, and then we will get to the other part as it relates to the culture, that once you lose the culture, you start losing young people. And when you lose young people, you will lose several generations, which will ultimately lead to the destruction of your country. Here's Cove Pure. Guys, the holidays can be rough. Late nights, too much sugar, skipped workouts, all those good habits going out the window. But the new year is here, and for me, that reset starts with Cove Pure. Everyone rushes into the new year with supplements, diets, and workout plans, but they ignore the most basic thing, water. Even mild dehydration hurts your energy, focus, and metabolism. Cove Pure fixes that. Their ClearWave technology is certified to remove over 99% of contaminants. What you're left with is clean, great-tasting water. What I love about Cove Pure is how easy it is. You can choose hot, cold, or warm water. It heats instantly, and the size preset makes it simple to stay hydrated. Plus, there's no installation. It just sits on your counter and looks great. Cove Pure is making getting clean water as easy as pressing a button. Right now, you can get $200 off for a limited time at covepure.com. That's COVEPURE.com/Rubin. Start the new year right with Cove Pure. All right, so let's talk about the young people. They are all insane, and we should not be surprised because we have let our institutions fail them. almost across the board. And this is why homeschooling is going through the roof right now. This is why pod learning and people just taking their children out of the system. School choice is exploding throughout the country. So we're going to show you a couple of videos here. We'll start in Georgia. This is a video of Langston Hughes high schoolers in Georgia, and they're walking out to protest ICE. And as you can see, they're making great points as they are doing that.
How do you feel about our protest?
But the point is throwing,
everybody
should have lined up. Somebody should have been saying that, why they were doing the protest.
Yeah. So our protest needs some work.
Yes, it does.
Like, watch out, they finna throw that orange.
That seems like a sensible protest, throwing laptops into you could literally kill somebody with a glass bottle. And I have sympathy for that woman who, she's kind of right. Like, okay, she's like, all right, I'm on board you guys walking out. Now, first off, should kids just be allowed at any moment at school to just protest whatever the high hell they want and walk out of class? Not sure. I guess you could leave that to each school, but I'm not really sure about that. In the years of all this BLM nonsense and everything else, like, these kids have been so brain broken. And by the way, there's so much evidence that the teachers are encouraging this stuff. That I don't know that would allow any kid for any given day could just, guys, let's just go. I'm protesting this and I'm protesting that and I'm protesting this thing. And they'll never learn, which actually maybe is a good thing when you think about the things that they actually are learning there. But her point was, well, I'm for it, but I wish you guys would just get out there and orderly do it and tell us why you're protesting and everything else. But that's not what this is about, right? Like, if you're a young person, you're 16 years old, your teacher's got you all ginned up, it's just the cool thing to do, and you can just not go to class and throw a laptop and break a kid's skull, like, why the hell not? Now let's jump over to Nebraska. It's all over the place. And you can see here our Fremont high schoolers also making a good, solid point about ICE and Trump. And I think this one doesn't have audio on it. So you can see that jumping in front of cars and, attacking these people, scaring the hell out of these drivers. That's someone just trying to drive down the street. You can imagine why you would, I don't know what the deal is in Nebraska, but in Florida, if they're blocking you, you're allowed to hit them. But they're just out in the street. They don't know what they are doing. They are supposed to be at school. There are tons of these videos. We showed you yesterday a compilation where it's not just high school kids. They are literally getting kindergartners, first graders, second graders, etc. out. This is mass psychosis, brainwashing, and these kids are being abused by the teachers. It is as simple as that. There is one sane Democrat, a man who had brain damage not too long ago. It's John Fetterman, and here he is saying that he is the only sane one, and he knows it.
I was proud to join my friend Katie Britt from Alabama, and I was the Democratic co-sponsor for the Lakin Riley bill. So that was entirely appropriate too. I come from this as an absolute secure border Democrat here, and that's where we're at. Like, focus on the secure our border, deport all the criminals, and that we can figure out now. And I also say now, some of the agents wearing masks, I think primarily that's driven by people are going to dox those people. That's a serious concern too. Absolutely, they could target their families, and they are organizing these people to put their names out there. So don't ever dox people and target their families too.
Yeah, I'm sorry to tell you, John Fetterman, you're just the outlier in your party, right? Like, all the other Democrats are screaming that ICE should have their masks ripped off. They don't mind when ICE officers who are going about their job are then at a hotel late night in Minnesota, and the hotel gets mobbed, and they are quite literally trapped there like prisoners, and all of the other things. So, it's honorable. It's always honorable to stand your ground and say you all are crazy. Like, that is an honorable position. But at some point, John Fetterman, it will be lonely enough for long enough, and you will eventually be a Republican. That's just the reality of the situation. Like, you are not a Republican, like, laminated, card on your lapel right now. But in essence, you are, because you're not completely absolutely insane. And if you want to go to more of the insanity, how it's just top down with these people, and it's the teachers, it's the media, and it's the politicians. Well, in New York, a woman who should get an award for craziest Botox work is Kathy Hochul, okay? Well, this woman's face, like, aliens would freak out over this thing. Like, if she was sent to another place, they would say, lady, it's a bit much. Here she is on the televised mental institution known as MS Now, explaining that she's going to do everything to stop Donald Trump from building an ICE detention center outside of New York City. He's just trying to get illegals out of New York City so that the city would function a little bit more, but he's very scary. But this is mostly about her Botox.
But we're prepared for whatever happens, but I hope Donald Trump sees that this is a community that he has his own investments in. He has buildings here. He has properties. He has a lot of friends in New York City. And Jessica Tisch and working with NYPD and state police cooperating, we are all doing just fine. We do not need a surge. But there are signs that they're trying to build a large detention center just 45 miles outside the city. So that's got to get through a lot of state reviews, let me just say.
All right, I'm going to try to do the analysis as if, wait, I got to lift it a little like this. And so I'm Kathy Hochul, and why is it that I wouldn't want Donald Trump to do that? Because all he's trying to do is get illegals out. You're the governor of the state. The people that voted for you, I assume, are legal citizens. Why do you not care? Like, how does she? I'm freaking myself out. Oh, wow, it did do a little lift. It's true. And all those Instagram videos, if you just do this all day, it'll do something for you. These people are all completely insane. They look insane and they act insane. That's how it is. And I would also say, Kathy Hochul, you have just a huge problem on your hands in New York because not only do you protect illegals, and you have now, and because taxes are so high, you have all of your good, productive people fleeing mostly to Florida. But New York City is now run by a commie jihadist. We'll talk about him in just a second. But first, Tax Network USA, which is a company that you really should talk to if you live in New York. Do you owe back taxes or haven't even filed in years? Now's the time to resolve your tax issues. With the national debate around abolishing the income tax system, the IRS is pushing back by becoming more aggressive than ever. They're sending more collection notices, filing more tax liens, and collecting billions more than in recent years. If you owe or you haven't filed, it's not a matter of if the IRS will act, it's when. Right now, Tax Network USA is offering a completely free IRS research and discovery call to show you exactly where you stand. Their programs and strategies can save you thousands or even eliminate your debt entirely if you qualify. Don't make the mistake of trying to handle the IRS on your own. Representing yourself or calling them directly can waive your rights and cost you significantly more. The IRS is not on your side, but Tax Network USA is. Get the protection you need and start resolving your tax matters once and for all. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Dave for your free discovery call. Don't let the IRS be the first to act. As Joseph pointed out, I'm look maxing. You know this thing on Instagram? They have all these people now, they just pull their face in different ways. And they're like, if you rub your face this way for 7 hours a day, your eye might go like this. And if you pull this back this way, it's insane what they've broken brain morons. Anyway, New York City, the once great capital of the world, is basically slow motion, and it's slow motion for now, but things happen slowly and then they happen fast, turning into a commie shithole. It is run by a guy who is a communist/jihadist. That is my personal belief, and I think it will bear out to be the truth. Of course, his name is Zohran Mamdani, although some people call him Moron Zamboni. Here he is explaining that the city is facing a $12 billion deficit, and of course it's the fault of his predecessor, and he's gonna have to take more money for you because even though things are free, they're not really free.
New York City is facing a serious fiscal crisis. There is a massive fiscal deficit in our city's budget to the tune of at least $12 billion. We did not arrive at this place by accident. This crisis has a name and a chief architect. In the words of the Jackson 5, it's as easy as ABC. This is the Adams budget crisis.
It's sadly been hidden from them for far too long, which is that the prior mayoral administration has left us with a $12 billion fiscal deficit. And this is at a scale that's actually greater than what we saw here in New York City during the Great Recession.
Interesting. You didn't mention any of that when you were running. You were just telling us that everything was going to be free. Did you have nobody looking at the books trying to figure out how that might work for you? Of course, you know, it's interesting. New York City also, which has some of the highest taxes. If you live in New York City and you're a producer, you're paying New York state tax, you're paying New York City tax, you probably are paying all sorts of payroll taxes and everything else. You are taxed to the nth degree, I assume probably higher than anywhere else but Cali, but maybe New York City is even higher than that. So is the issue that New York City doesn't have enough income, that the city itself doesn't take enough from the people, or could it be that it's a giant slush fund, that you people spend too much, that there is incredible fraud, as we are finding out in Minnesota and LA, that everything, you guys never have enough money because nothing you do is effective. You have no competition when you do anything. So everything you do is designed to max the amount you take from the people and give to your buddies. So it's quite spectacular that literally 1 month almost to the day of this guy coming in, he's basically saying we're in a financial crisis. You were the one that promised us free buses. You were the one that promised us all free. Everything's free. You are suddenly finding out that $12 billion deficit is a problem. Why is that a problem? Everything's free, brother. What are you talking about? But here he is. You know, we had a big storm across the east. And as we said, even here in Florida, the iguanas were falling out of the trees. In New York, here is what it looks like when a communist jihadist takes over and has to run the trash during a storm. So as Jerry said to George, good luck with all of that, New York, right? Like, you guys, you've chosen this. You are going to have more and more of that. And by the way, that might feel a little heavy-handed to you. I lived in New York City at times, and during storms, it can be tough for I'm giving the devil his due. Like, it can be tough for the trucks to get through and all that stuff. But the services will collapse. He's telling you right now, oh, I'm a month in. We have a massive budget deficit. What he's not telling you is I'm forcing all of these other people to leave. But then what his answer will be is I have to take more from those people so that we don't have this crazy deficit. And I'm going to keep giving to these people, as opposed to looking at the budgets, figuring out where can we cut. You want to fix things in New York? Cut the services, cut the red tape, cut the regulations, et cetera, but you don't want to do that. Instead, he opened an office. For like, it was for, to look into rent increases for lower income people. It's like, that kind of sounds good. Okay, so should there be some issue about lower income people getting hit with rent increases? Well, that kind of sounds right. But what did he do? He created another government office to do it. Incredible. And look, here's a little bit more. This is from Right Angle News Network. I mean, this is just the state of New York. Breaking, shocking footage out of Zohran Mamdani's New York City, captured by New York Scoop, is going viral, showing homeless people sitting on manholes for warmth and snow as garbage lines in the streets, while 16 people have already died from the cold. So yeah, 16 people died in that snap of cold. You would think that with all of the free stuff, they would have not died. I mean, that guy right there, like, there's no, it's sad. It's just sad. Like, the joke version of it is, this is how, like, if this was Gotham, this is how someone becomes the evil supervillain. Like, he's just a regular homeless guy. He sits on top of the grate. The grate has some toxic fumes in it. Next thing you got it, right? Like, next thing you know, he's working with Bane, and it's the whole situation. But they're out of control. They are not going to stop. Donald Trump and the few sane ones of us left are all we got, and we better watch out. This is rather disturbing over at CNN. This Harry Enten guy, who is hopped up on something. I don't know what's going on over there. Here he explains that Democrats are doing even better right now than they were projected to be doing, which is so insane, and yet here we are.
That's exactly right. Texas 9, because what happened in Texas 9, it didn't just swing to the left, it took a rocket ship to the left. My goodness gracious, the Texas 9 Senate District election marches. This was a district that Donald Trump won by 17 points in 2024. The Democratic candidate in the special election on Saturday, won it by 14 points. That's an over 30-point shift to the left. Any Republican, unlike Ron DeSantis, who doesn't take this seriously, they should realize that this is very perilous. They ignore this result at their own peril. Ron DeSantis is right to say, hey, special elections can be quirky, but this ain't no quirk.
Well, surprise, surprise, Ron DeSantis is right about something. That guy is extremely annoying. How did he get a job on television? What a dork. But it is upsetting to think that places where Donald Trump won by 17 points could have a complete flip and now be 30 points the other way. That is a problem. And again, this is to the backdrop of knowing that the Republican or the incumbent president's party loses 70% of the midterm. So everything is stacked up against us right now. That's kind of where we are at. And the Republicans are going to have to do some bold things. And if you're going to do some bold things, which Donald Trump should not be afraid of doing and often does, I would listen to the advice of Ron DeSantis. I would also listen to the advice of Anna Paulina Luna, who is making a very clever move as it appears there could be another looming government shutdown. Oh no, don't threaten me with a good time. How she wants to get the SAVE Act included on it, which would of course make that you'd have to be legal citizen to vote in the election.
Things could get pretty messy here on the Hill today as House Republicans may have to advance this package of government spending bills without any help from Democrats whatsoever. Now, the first thing that House Republicans have to do is pass a complicated procedural vote known as a rule. That has to pass in order to get an actual vote on these funding bills on the House floor. Now, that procedural vote is going to be a whole lot easier said than done. Not only will Democrats not vote for it, but Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna is threatening to hold the whole process up if the voter ID bill known as the SAVE Act isn't attached to the spending bills. Still, though, Speaker Johnson is confident it'll all get worked out.
Okay, so that's interesting that Speaker Johnson may not be on the side of Anna Paulina Luna here. She's trying her best in a situation where they're going to pass some bills to make sure that what will be attached to it is what every single one of us knows is right, that you have to be a legal citizen to vote in our elections. If Republicans can't all coalesce around that, then they're almost as useless as the Democrats are. Yeah, the Democrats are basically evil, but the Republicans would be so useless that I think it would veer towards evil. Listen to this for a little more context from Eric Daughtry. Breaking, Representative Anna Paulina Luna reveals Senate Leader John Thune is moving towards nuking the zombie filibuster to pass the SAVE Act following a meeting with President Trump. In exchange, Luna and Representative Tim Burchett are backing the funding bill advanced. A standing filibuster means 50 votes are needed after senators finish debate. Traditionally, if you wanted to force a 60-vote requirement, senators actually had to show up and debate until they couldn't any longer. The zombie filibuster right now means senators don't have to stand up and debate. Mike Lee from Utah has been pushing for this. Let's go. We need this. So, okay, so let me try to clean this up a little bit because this is like insider political nonsense for the most part. Republicans, you have a majority. You have a majority right now in the House and the Senate. Unfortunately, you are likely about to lose it. If you do not use every bit of power you have right now to make some sane things go through this US government, we will likely lose the country. I know that sounds scary, and I know that sounds alarmist and everything else, but I think it is true. If the Republicans lose the House and potentially the Senate, Donald Trump gets impeached, we are hung up in lame duck Donald Trump 2 years where nothing will get done. You have to use power when you have it. I know that that's, for those of us that are more libertarian minded, that want more equanimity in Congress and everything else, you don't like it. But what do you think this group of Democrats, not the Democrats for the last 240 years, but this group of Democrats that has cropped up in the last 10 years, what do you think they will do when they get the levers of power again? And let me be very clear, since Ron DeSantis was mentioned there, Ron DeSantis would do this in his sleep in Florida, and that's why we are by far the strongest state in the union. So federal Republicans, nationwide Republicans, get on board. If you do not do this now, we are screwed beyond imagination. But let's give you the actual definition of the SAVE Act. And you just tell me, do you think this is a good idea, yes or no? The SAVE Act is proposed U.S. federal legislation that would require individuals to provide documentary proof of U.S. citizenship, such as a passport or birth certificate, when registering to vote in federal elections. The key purpose, its stated goal, is to prevent non-citizens from voting in the U.S. elections by tightening voter registration requirements. The main provisions, in general terms, requires proof of citizenship for new voter registrations, applies to federal elections, directs states to verify citizenship status more strictly, imposes penalties for officials who register non-citizens improperly. Guys, this is the lowest common denominator. This is low-hanging fruit. This ain't much. Do you have to prove you are a citizen of the United States to vote in the elections of the United States? Do you have to prove you're a citizen or have some sort of identification when you get on a plane? The answer is yes. The version of it that I always love telling you is when we used to go mini golfing when we lived in LA, to rent the mini golf clubs that are this big, I used to have to give them my ID and they would hold it until I returned the golf clubs because apparently a lot of people were stealing the mini golf clubs. We all know this is basic. You know what? And for all the Democrats that want to tell us this is racist and black people don't know how to get IDs and the rest, which actually is racist, start bringing some people up there. Prove me wrong, Chuck. Prove me wrong, Nancy, and the rest of you wackadoodle AOC and all you nutbags. How about when you give me a speech that black and poor people can't get IDs, bring a black and or poor person up there and put your arm around them and say, this here is someone who can't get an ID. Why I didn't help them get an ID, I can't explain to you. But these people don't exist. They don't exist. And if you did know this person that doesn't have an ID, you could help them get it. But the reason you don't know them or don't help them is because you want illegals to vote. That is the truth, and that is exactly what President Trump told my friend Dan Bongino, who thankfully is back on the airwaves yesterday on his show.
So they've sent all of their people, millions and millions of people, we have to get them out. And by the way, if Republicans don't get them out, you will never win another election as a Republican. If you don't get these people are all pitted, so they vote. And they make all this crap with the voting. Oh, well, you can vote, you can do whatever you want. It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy how you can get these people to vote. And if we don't get them out, Republicans will never win another election.
Okay, so does that sound over the top alarmist to you, or does it just sound right? Why do the Democrats care so much that illegals are here? Why is
Kathy Hochul so upset that there's going to be an ICE facility outside of New York?
Why is it that none of them screamed for 4 years when 21 million illegals here? Why is it that they don't care about Laken Riley or the dozens of other young women who have been killed and or raped, etc., by these people? Why? Is it because they are just so kind? They're all just so freaking kind that they want as many people to share in what they also tell us is a horribly systemically racist nation and everything else. They're all just so great and kind. Or is it the most duplicitous, the most toxic version of politics you could possibly have, using the empathy of decent people to destroy the very country you were sworn to protect? I think it's that one, in case it's not clear. Listen to this from American Redistricting Project. I thought this was quite interesting and also explains what's going on here. So the map's a little confusing for those of you watching because we always think of red as Republican, but ignore that for a second. Red means loss in this case, and green means gain. And the 23 apportionment forecast, if without illegals flooding this country, is that Texas will gain 4 seats, Florida will gain 4 seats, Arizona, Georgia, Idaho, North Carolina, Utah will gain 4 seats. Cali will lose 4 seats. Illinois, Minnesota, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and Wisconsin will all lose 1 seat. This is all based on the 2025 census population. The estimates were released just days ago. So the point of all of this is if the numbers stay the same without flooding the country with illegals, everything is looking really good for Republicans. If legal citizens can vote, and by the way, when you see those, okay, why did Florida and Texas gain? Because we've gained new people here. Why is Cali losing 4 seats? Because they've lost people. So if the system operates in the legal way it was set up to operate, to function as, everything's going to be okay. But if you're looking at that and you're a Democrat, yes, would you flood the freaking system with illegals who you will get on your dole so that you can stay in power forever? Is that cynical of me to say, or is it just freaking obvious? Let's end the show with this. I keep showing you clips of Bill O'Reilly lately, and he's definitely in his kind of older man grumpy phase. I like it. We're going to try to have him on the show in the next week or two. And here he is talking about what conservatives basically want.
Conservative traditional Americans like the country the way it was in 1965. Yeah. I'm writing about that in my new book, Confronting America. They don't want a vast change where foreign nationals dominate the elections, the economy, whatever it may be. But the traditional conservative American doesn't want to be flooded. They don't want the zone flooded. Right. So that's the skepticism there. Biden destroyed any kind of compromise by his open border policy, which was so outrageous, so many people got hurt. We'll be dealing with the repercussions of that for decades. Yeah, now they're dug in.
Yeah, he's completely right. Remember, Biden was sold to us, or at least sold to the Democrats, as old Joe Biden. We know him. He's not a radical, right? He's not Bernie. We're not going to go with Bernie. We're not going to go with Elizabeth Warren. We're not going with the commies. We're getting Joe Biden. And he'll be a sort of moderate Dem because we've known him forever. And then, of course, he governed like a far left lunatic, and it wasn't even him governing. But it's interesting because Bill says conservative traditional Americans want to go back to 1965. But I would widen that. It's not just conservative traditional Americans. I don't think of myself as a conservative traditional American, and I certainly wasn't alive in 1965. It's anyone who just sort of loves America. So whether it's you want to go back to 1965 or 1985 or 1995, or we could move this into about 2005, maybe even to 2010, we want to go back to an America where there were two parties that maybe you agreed with or disagreed with, but one of them didn't fundamentally hate America. One of them didn't want to fundamentally shred the Constitution. One of them didn't fundamentally want to flood the entire country with illegals and everything else. So it's not that it's conservative, traditional Americans. It's plenty of old school liberals like Tulsi and RFK and Joe Rogan and Elon Musk and Dave Rubin and many more. And that's what America's all about. So it's all of us sane people against the radicals. And that's why in crazy moments, you have to use power when you have it. I don't like the idea of nuking the filibuster. I don't. The Democrats have now proven themselves, without a shadow of a doubt, to be willing to do whatever it takes to destroy the country. I don't know how you would see it anyway. We just, thank God, survived 4 years of this under Biden. And Trump could be handicapped 2 years in if we lose these midterms. That's where we're at. So it doesn't matter if you're a traditional conservative Republican, or you're a disaffected liberal, or you're just some guy who doesn't give a flying F about politics, but you think America's kind of decent. You know which way you have to vote. It is simple as that. That is our program for today. I thank you for watching. We've got a post-game show coming up at rubinreport.locals.com in 30 seconds. I believe we have a cold close for you today. We don't have a cold close for you today. I was about to call it 9-8. We've now degraded to a 9-6. My notes right there say Don Lemon dancing in prison. Do we not have that? Someone's not getting lunch. That's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Post-game show, 30 seconds. Ciao.